This is Dr. Anderson. I'd like to give a little information about EMG NCV testing. It is typically done for neurological purposes and looks for conditions such as neuropathies, myopathies, pinched nerves in the low back or in the neck, carpal tunnel syndrome, and other nerve or muscle-related problems. EMG testing can be sometimes uncomfortable, but it should not be painful. It is a very safe test, but because there is a needle involved, there is the slight chance of bleeding and infection. Very often, an EMG is done with an MRI or other imaging study. The MRI or other imaging study is a picture of the nerves and structures. The EMG is more like a test drive because we can see how the nerves and muscles are actually working. The equipment used for an EMG machine consists of an amplifier, stimulator, wires, a base station, and a laptop computer. Together they basically form a very fancy oscilloscope. The electrodes are connected to the skin. They're similar to electrodes that are placed around the chest for an EKG. There's an amplifier, and the amplifier is used to amplify the signal from your body. In order to activate the nerves, there is a stimulator. This shocks the skin gently to activate the nerves. All of this is all connected into the amplifier, which then sends the signal to the base unit. The EMG portion of the study does have a needle. This is a very small needle similar to an acupuncture needle. Thus, the entire setup looks similar to that in this picture. Time is very important in nerve function. If we put a grid on the oscilloscope and then we stimulate the nerve, we will be able to measure how quickly the nerve works. There are many diseases where the nerve works more slowly than it should. As you can see, there are 4 points where the line changes from the baseline. The first of these is very important. It's called the onset. We usually measure the speed to onset to find out how fast the nerves are working. Then there is the highest point reached. That is the peak. The peak is important because when compared to the trough, which is the lowest point measured, an amplitude can be checked as well. Finally, there is a recovery time, and that is usually not measured, but it's when the nerve recovers and is back at baseline. Measuring the distance from the beginning of the stimulation to the onset tells us how fast the nerve works. Size is also important, so we put in a vertical grid. And when we measure the peak to trough amplitude, we can see how much signal the nerve can carry. The EMG test is different. There are no electric shocks. Instead, a very small wire is placed into the muscle, and the natural electricity within that muscle is measured. The needle is placed in the muscle, and after a brief sound, if the muscle is relaxed, there should be a very mild waveform, a little bit of fuzziness, but basically a straight line. Because there is a speaker on the EMG section, there's also sound. When the muscle is relaxed, the sound should be almost quiet. However, the muscle is then contracted. The waveforms should fill up the screen and the sound should be very loud. Any variation from the loud or quiet aspects would indicate a potential muscle problem. I thank you for watching this brief introductory video about EMG NCV testing. As always, this information is not meant to be 100% medically accurate and should not be relied upon for any particular medical procedure. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask us. Thank you very much.